Hello, everyone. Hello. Welcome to The Pulse, everybody, on the America's Pulse Network. I am your host tonight, Alexandra Levine from Alexandra Levine Live. Breaking news. POTUS got a 5% increase in NATO from everyone except Spain. So guess what? Spain gets more tariffs. The head of NATO calling President Trump, quote, daddy, which was awesome today. And President Trump gives overwhelming support for Prime Minister Bibi Netanyahu, who is going through a legal witch hunt in Israel, just like President Trump did here in America. President Trump called for the trial to be canceled immediately or a pardon be given. President Trump said on his Truth Social, quote, "It was the United States of America that saved Israel, and now it is going to be the United States of America that saves Bibi." And that's the monologue. Since January 20th, 2025, President Trump has signed multiple executive orders working on bringing peace to the Middle East. President Trump and Vice President J.D. Vance keep calling out Zelensky/Putin. More illegals a day are being removed from our country, and the Trump tax cuts are going into expansion, hopefully soon, and the cost of gas and eggs is finally going down. The manufacturing jobs are on the up and up, and corrupt federal employees are getting the boot. Sounds like a great day for America, right? Well, it sounds good to me. These are things I voted for. These are things that we, the people, have been waiting 4 years for. But unfortunately, some Republicans still in Congress have forgotten that. Mind you, I'm not talking about the Republicans that keep fighting for their constituents and keep fighting to cut down the spending. I'm talking about the members in Congress that kowtow to the one or two Democrat constituents they have, or kowtow to lobbyists and special interest groups that they are bought and paid for. It's not President Trump's fault that the Republicans in Congress can't get their acts together. Remember, President Trump doesn't write the bills. He can advise and make suggestions, but he doesn't pass the bills. Congress passes the bills. President Trump signs the passed bills. Remember, Congress passes the laws. So if President Trump has to keep coming up to Capitol Hill to get his agenda pushed forward for we the people, I feel so bad for him. There should already be a consensus. Look, we have the Republicans in the House of Representatives and Republicans in the Senate. These congressmen and senators were elected or reelected because of President Trump. The new senators were elected because of President Trump, and the incumbent senators were reelected because of President Trump. President Trump got so many Democrats and independents across the aisle and vote for him in the general because at the end of the day, the majority of American people agreed that our country was going down the toilet. If we had free and fair elections in all 50 states, we'd be able to really see the true election results. That's why it's so important that the one big, beautiful bill gets passed before the 4th of July. This bill will not only expand the Trump tax cuts, but will also make our country wealthy and safe again. Isn't that why you congressmen and senators got elected and reelected, to do the things for we the people? So like I said before, do your job, stop with the bullshit, and let's make America great again. We have a jam-packed show for you guys tonight, so let's introduce you to my other host and guest tonight. This guy is the only man I know that has said more F-bombs than President Trump. Our very own Popeye the Sailor Man, Seth Eisenberg of the Conservative Corner.
I don't know if I should be proud of that.
Well, this Floridian, this other Floridian, because I'm a Floridian too, she's smart, she's feisty. But don't mess with her bananas. Our very own Elena Barbara from the Based Mother.
I'm a little worried that now I have to be smart and feisty tonight.
And our new special guest, our new guest tonight, he's a vet who castrates animals for a living, but he will castrate any anti-Semite on social media. Our very own from Carroll County, Maryland, Scott Willens.
Actually, I'm from Jersey originally.
Even better.
Yeah.
And our very special guest. This man is known for being a rhino hunter. Our very own Fred Profiter, the president of the Frederick County Conservative Club. Hopefully everything's working with him. Hey, Fred. Our special guest will be in and out throughout the show. Hopefully everything will work out. Our producer will be working with him. So let's get to the show at hand. Let's start with segment one. Let's bring everybody up, Dave and Sharon. Awesome. So our first segment tonight talks about MAGA influencers and grifters. So these are people that call themselves so-called conservatives, but we're finding their true colors out every single day. For some reason, they call themselves America First. They say they support President Trump, and they claim to say that because of them, President Trump won the election. Well, let's see. You have people that we know, conservative media influencers, and we're finding out in real time that they're bought and paid for by the Qatari government, such as Tucker Carlson and Candace Owens. Now we have the Hodge twins that are heavily anti-Semitic. We have a known anti-Semite named Nick Fuentes, and these people have millions and millions of followers and have huge, influences in the media. So I go to Scott Willens first because, like I said, he's the castrator of the anti-Semites. Why the heck did Candace Owens all of a sudden support Israel, love Israel, go to Israel with Charlie Kirk on Turning Point USA's dime, and now all of a sudden does a whole 180 and is anti-Zionist, anti-Israel? Would you say that she was always anti-Israel? Maybe she was pro-Israel, then became anti-Israel. What is up with Candace Owens? Go to you, Scott.
I wouldn't leave out Dave Smith from that list of woke right, as we like to call them. They're no less dangerous or stupid or anti-Semitic than the woke left. And as Douglas Murray schooled him, you're supposed to take the red pill, not the whole damn bottle. And I think they get a little bit of knowledge. They have confirmation bias, Dunning-Kruger effect on the interwebs. They spend 15 minutes on it. There's not a degree probably among all of them except Tucker Carlson. Their idea of do your research is this short attention span theater. They've never done bench work, field work, a dissertation to actually prove a hypothesis or do anything. So they find something that goes along with what they already believe. They go down that rabbit hole. They keep going down it. But I think there's always got to be some element of latent anti-Semitism there, some kernel of it that sparks it, some big bang soul source that then just explodes into whatever they want to find that goes along with what they believe. One of the big conspiracy theories, for example, is the Khazarian theory that all we Ashkenazi Jews come from the Khazars. And there was several genetic studies done on PubMed that showed that disproved that and showed our links to both Sephardic Jews and other areas that have nothing to do with the Khazarian mountains or what have you. So, but Candace Owens wants to, like Dave Smith, act like the experts know nothing and that they're the experts. And I get it. We've been lied to about COVID. We've been lied to about many things. But to swing the pendulum fully the other way and say that every expert knows nothing and you've done 5 minutes of something and now you're the expert is folly. And we can't follow, fools like that. So but I think they always have some form of latent anti-Semitism and some lack of knowledge of knowing Jews in person, or not understanding that to be anti-Zionist is anti-Semitic. The definition of Zionism is the right for Israel to exist. And they say, well, define a Semite. That's another myth, but define anti-Semitism. Every dictionary, Oxford, Merriam-Webster, every primary peer-reviewed source calls anti-Semitism hatred of Jews, and they want to shroud it and disguise it as, oh, well, Semites are this group and that group. We can all go on forever, but someone else got to have a turn.
Yeah. So Seth, I'm going to pivot to you. So Seth, you attack these anti-Semites on a daily basis. What the hell is going on with Tucker Carlson, Candace Owens, Hodge twins, Dave Smith? What's up with them?
They're talking heads, and they're going where they think they can get the most popularity, where they can get the most money from. They really don't have any, they don't have anything invested in what they're talking about. They're doing it simply because they think they get money on it. They're pieces of shit. I would love to get Tucker Carlson alone in a room, because I would kick his teeth down his goddamn throat and then beat him until he bled from his ass. He's just a mouthpiece that makes me sick. Candace Owens is just a ghetto queen. That's all she is. She's running her mouth just to get popular, try to get people on her. They all know they're fading. They're not as popular as they were 5 years ago, and they're not as popular as they were 10 years ago. Everything is dropping for them. So they're doing what they can. And again, it's working towards the lowest common denominator, which is stupid people. There's a shit ton of them out there, and they're connecting with all of them. And the Hodge twins, I've never heard of her. Were they?
There's two black guys that are twins. They're twin brothers.
Yeah, and unfortunately, they're fellow veterans, but they learn nothing about military values in their time in the
I learned a long time ago, just because you're in the military doesn't mean shit. I know some of the biggest pieces of trash were in the military, and I met some of the nicest people who've ever been in the military. So that never, when someone goes, hey, he's a vet, I go, hey, I don't care. It doesn't mean anything to me. I'm a vet, and I can be a jerk, so don't use it like it's a shield. But the reason they're so popular is because I said they've got, with the lowest common denominator, idiots. And those idiots will never bail on them, no matter what. They could go on screen, shoot a puppy, and punch a nun, and they'd go, yeah, all right, where do I send my money? We'll never get rid of people like that because the stupid people will keep them around. And that makes me sick.
Yeah. Elena, what's your take on this?
Was it punch the nun and shoot the puppy, or shoot the nun and punch the puppy?
I wouldn't shoot a nun. They scare me.
I'm taking notes. Okay. I think the one that you alluded to it a moment ago with the one size fits all blanket thinking. We've been lied to for years, so this must all be lies too. It is foolishness. It's tomfoolery. I do think it's important for us, in order to not inflame things even more, to be careful to distinguish between people who are anti-Semitic, which unfortunately there's just so much of it. I see it myself. It upsets me. You guys know I was born and raised in Brooklyn in a half Italian, half Jewish neighborhood. Like, these are my people. I'm almost an honorary member of the tribe. So I have, I'm very sensitive to it. Not as sensitive as you, of course. But there are people who are just, politically criticizing. And I just want to make sure that, everybody isn't lumped in together, because we have to bring the temperature down somehow. And it's hard, I know, but I want, funny thing, just a little side note about The View, everybody's favorite horrible show. Sunny Hostin said when she criticizes Israel, she wants you to know that it's not anti-Semitism, that it's just political. And I thought that was really hilarious, because every time Donald Trump says anything about any country, it's because he's a racist and a xenophobe automatically, and never a political point. But she, there is some merit in her argument that some people, just have political differences.
But they never give the specifics about it. There's never any specifics about what Israel's done wrong that they don't like. They just say, well, I don't like Israel doesn't mean I don't like Jews. But it's always one layer deep.
That's it with any argument with a liberal, though, right? Any single argument. Now, the people on the right who are doing this and going, I think some of them go beyond one layer deep. I still don't like what they're saying, because a lot of the things they say that I hear are just generalizations, and it's just so damaging. It's just so damaging. I'll leave it at that.
I have a question.
Agree. And go ahead, Seth.
If I'm burning a cross, can I say I'm just doing it to keep myself warm? Would that cover that too? If I could hate Israel but not Jews, I'm burning a cross just to stay warm.
Oh,
I wonder if she would accept that too.
Oh my God.
Who, Sunny or me?
Sunny. I'm just trying to stay warm.
Right.
Right. Burning the cross.
What I find with asinine by these idiots is that, in 2012, you read their tweets, you read their social medias, and they blatantly said, Iran cannot obtain nuclear weapons. We need to go in there. We need to bomb all the facilities. And now all of a sudden we want to go in there, and then they're screaming out, oh, we're getting involved in Israel's war. We need to focus on America first. But what they don't understand, and Scott, you can attest to this, and Seth and Elena, all three of you can, is that Netanyahu, he discovered, and with Israeli Central Intelligence, that Iran can obtain mass amounts of nuclear weapons. That's why it was very bad that Obama put us in the Iran nuclear deal. And what Netanyahu said is, we're Israel. We're just a small country with, there's only 6.5 million Jews. It's a very small country. But Iran is not really focused on killing a small country like Israel. They're focused on blowing up a bigger country like America, Canada, places with big populations, especially a big Christian population. Because these damn radical Islamists, the Jews are the minorities, the Christians that are the majority. So they're really not just coming after Jews, they're really coming for Christians too. So the fact that all of a sudden, first Tucker Carlson says, yes, we need to go in there, we need to make sure that Iran doesn't have nuclear weapons. And then he comes back in, and now he says to Senator Ted Cruz, well, how do you know? How do you know that Iran has nuclear weapons? How do you know? How do you know? And he did this like gotcha question interview. It was so disgusting. And it just showed day and night between the support that Senator Ted Cruz has for Israel and the non-support that Tucker Carlson doesn't have for Israel. I honestly believe that he never had support for Israel, even though he basically made money off working with Jewish people to get to where he is today. Scott, what say you?
Tucker Carlson. I can't believe I ever used to follow him and think he was funny or insightful. He's not. Ted Cruz is not going to relay the top secret classified information that he has to know that Iran is days away from developing 15 atomic weapons. But let's put that aside for a minute. He likes to talk about endless wars and would you send your kids or you send yourself? He didn't. I did. I went at age 30. I joined, did 20 years, went to Iraq in 2007. And we were fired upon by Jaish al-Mahdi, the army of the 12th Imam, rocketed and explosive foreign penetrators every day, thanks to funding and training by Iran. And, we look at the hostage crisis through the Beirut barracks bombings, the embassies, the proxies of Hezbollah, Hamas, and the Houthis. And you all know this, and hopefully the viewers do, but some don't. There's a lot of history revisionism and even current events revisionism out there. Trump and Israel are not starting World War III. They're ending it. You can't have the smoking gun be a mushroom cloud. But that's the kind of evidence that Tucker Carlson wants, is that it's when it's too late. And when it's too late for us, when you've wiped out half of our global population in one fell swoop, and if they really cared about the Palestinians, which they don't, and all of the radioactive fallout that would be there. And it's, again, it's the shallow arguments are often hidden with things like saying actually and literally a dozen times, like they're 2020 Valley Girls. Those words mean nothing. They don't supplant a cogent, comprehensive argument. But Iran, greatest. I've slept better knowing that's taken care of, and it's been a long time since I slept that well. I mean, when I was privy to that kind of information at the Pentagon in working in medical chem biodefense for 20 years, I lost a lot of sleep knowing what was out there. Then I lost sleep being cut off when I retired and not having my finger on the pulse of that. But I trust people like Pete Hegseth, who's a SecDef for the warfighter, not for the general, for meritocracy, not for wokeness, for readiness, not for dresses. And I think we're in better hands with that. The only thing I didn't like that Trump said was when he said that they both don't know what the hell they're doing. I don't believe that's so. But I know where his heart is.
I was going to say, because I had to explain that to people too. So I understood President Trump's frustration at that point because he put the ceasefire in place. He wanted to go to NATO knowing that there was a ceasefire, that there was peace. And then he hears that, Iran broke the ceasefire and then, Israel retaliated. But then once he got onto Air Force One, he spoke to Netanyahu. He spoke to the heads of Iran. They kind of explained to him the situation, what happened.
But the only problem with that is that it does give some pseudo legitimacy to the claims of the woke right that Trump, the why can't they all get along argument, which leaves out the fact that radical Islam is the underlying common denominator of they can't live with Christians, with Jews, with Hindus, with Buddhists, with each other in the absence of anyone else to fight with, especially Shia. And now you've got 12 are running for mayor. But I'm sure
we'll talk about that later.
Yeah,
in the next segment. But Damon Stroud, I want you to put up this image, the situation with Iran. Please put that up, Damon. Nope, not that image. There was another image. Don't worry about it. So there was another image specifically about the situation with Iran and the propaganda at its finest. Seth, I want you to attest to it, and I want you to talk about the mass amounts of propaganda that is going on. And again, we the people, a lot of Trump supporters, they read into that propaganda. They listen to that propaganda. They're breathing that propaganda. How can we get, conservatives, Trump people, real Trump supporters to not listen to the damn propaganda.
Well, I think it was Goering that said, tell a lie enough and make it bigger, and people will believe it.
Mhm.
And that's all they're doing now is repeating a lie over and over and over again. And again, you're dealing with the lowest common denominator, and it's stupid people. And no matter what you tell a stupid person, number one, they're going to think yellow snow is lemon flavored, and they're going to listen to everything they hear on Facebook or hear on the news. You will not convince an idiot that they're an idiot and they're listening to lies. So the only way to deal with those idiots is you have to ignore them and put them out to pasture. Just stop trying to convince them of anything. Stop trying to work with them. Stop trying to explain to them. Stop helping them tie their shoes. Let them go. Wish them fair seas and nice winds. Go. We're tired of dealing with you. I'm tired of trying to convince you of anything because you're not listening. You want to listen to the bullshit from the bullshitters? Fine. Go right ahead. Do that. And when you finally come to and realize, hey, I am an idiot, we're all going to point and laugh at you, but we're still not going to let you come back because you just don't listen. And as far as Tucker Carlson goes, he's the kind he impresses me as the kind of guy that touches himself while looking in the mirror at himself, thinking he's that important. Really,
That image.
I can just see him with a little shit-eating grin on his face going, oh, yeah, you're important. Oh, yeah, people like you. You're an important man. You're never going to convince stupid people they're wrong. You can't. You won't. It'll never happen. Especially
well, you have to take some solace in the fact that a lot of these people who rant online, in particular, who are followers of the fools, have no voice in the real world. Yeah. There's no consequence to anything they say. They can rant 1 minute, one comment to the next, and nothing changes. The problem is the people with the podcasts who wield power in a way that they like Joe Rogan, when he has a disproportionate number of people that slant a certain way, he starts to present the truth that way, or at least what he sees as the truth. Right. And he gives it in an overwhelming preponderance of the way he wants to skew it. And that's very, as Douglas Murray said, it's very irresponsible to wield the power that way that he has.
Well, we just have a couple minutes left of this segment. I want Elena to chime in here. Go ahead, Elena.
Oh, I just want to say, everybody on the internet who's got a podcast like this is saying things like, we are the media now. And some of them are turning into the mainstream media in all the worst ways. Oh. And by manipulating people, it's pretty bad.
Well, I just want to make the point. I love the fact that President Trump keeps calling out, fake news CNN, fake New York Times. He's telling the people to stop watching these big outlets like CNN, stop reading the New York Times. And he is focusing on podcasts such as ourselves, conservative media. I agree with you, Elena. The conservative media is now becoming the mainstream media. That's why I encourage people, stop watching CNN, stop watching MSDNC, watch our show, watch conservative media. That's why I'm at the White House. That's why our network is at the White House, because we were heavily vetted, because Caroline Leavitt and President Trump are tired of the fake news. They're just tired of it. And I love how he gave it to Caitlin Collins again today. But just on the last point is that they're having, Pete Hegseth is actually having a press conference at 8 o'clock in the morning with those fighters that were in the B-52s that flew from Missouri, and were in charge of what happened by bombing the nuclear facilities in Iran. And those B-52 fighters were pissed to hear all the propaganda and BS that came out of CNN and the New York Times. So I'm so happy that Pete Hegseth is calling this press conference 8 o'clock in the morning. So you get to hear it from the horse's mouth, from the actual people that were there, that like dropped the bomb and saw the whole thing explode. For CNN and the New York Times say, oh, well, it was just a fraction of it. It wasn't the complete facility. Again, it's such fake news. And it's such a slap in the face to our fighters. It's such a slap in the face to the United States military. What CNN and the New York Times did is they made our military out to be weak, and we are stronger than ever before because of Pete Hegseth as the Secretary of Defense.
Why 8 in the morning? Ugh.
Well, I know, 8 o'clock in the morning. That's how they do it. So anyway, so we're pivoting to segment 2 right now. So segment 2 talks about the liberal judges helping the illegals. And unfortunately, this idiot Kilmar Garcia is back in the media. Let's bring up the image of that, Damon Sherrod. There you go. So Tim Fazenbaker, who's a good friend of our show, he wrote, breaking Magistrate Judge Barbara Jones just denied the DOJ's request to keep domestic abuser Kilmar Abrego Garcia in custody. ICE had better be right there to deport him. This man should not be allowed back on the streets. I pivot to Elena. We'll start with you on that. What's your comment?
I haven't had the chance to look into the legal reason that she did this, but I can tell you it infuriates me. This man is being brought up on human trafficking charges. The Democrats, again and again and again, support sexual abuse of children, of women, and even of men, human trafficking, violence. Why on earth? Can somebody else explain to me legally how this is possible that she says that he should be released from custody? Was she suggesting that he's out on, some sort of a bail, or he's going to get an ankle monitor, or just go free altogether and drop charges? What are we doing here? I have had enough of this Kilmar guy and hearing us all spend time and money on him. I don't care. We never should have even brought him back from the prison. He should have never crossed back over the border. Kick him out. You want to release him? Come on, let's go. I want Tom Homan on site himself. I want to see it on camera. Him put cuffs on this guy, throw him in the bus, and I'll drive the bus over the border and kick him out myself. I've had it.
I agree with you. Seth, I kick it to you, and then Scott, because this guy was supposedly a Maryland man. You guys are actually like, native Marylanders. You're Americans. You were born in Maryland, or not Scott, but Seth, what is your take on this? I mean, they're bringing this guy up again. It's just disgusting. Remember, Senator Chris Van Hollen used your taxpayer dollars to go over there to meet this guy and have margaritas with him on your taxpayer dime.
First of all, in defense of myself, I was born in Brooklyn.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I'm a New Yorker, which explains why I'm so judgmental and nasty. But my father was a cop for 20 years in PG County, which was back when he was a cop. It was the wild, wild west. It was crazy. And I remember him telling me once, if you're looking for justice, don't go to the courthouse. You're never going to find it in the courthouse. You got judges with their own agendas. You've got liberal judges. You've got conservative judges. You've got independent judges. They all have their own angle they want to do something on. So you'll never find justice in a courthouse. You'll find what they think is justice, because true justice is the end. It's what it ends at. Like, you broke a law. This happens. Here comes justice. Done. And usually justice is harsh and swift. It's not, well, let's give him, like Elena was saying, an ankle monitor and pat him on his butt and tell him he's okay. Just stay in your house and then we'll let you go. This guy should still not be back in this country. The second he came back in this country, I should have detained him again and then started to get him out of here again. We have too many hung juries and not enough hung defendants in this country. That's the problem. Everybody wants to give everybody a second chance, and we don't know when enough is enough. If you're involved in human trafficking, you're the lowest of the lowest. You are scum. You are lower than whale shit. And that's how you should be treated. And we don't do that anymore. We're more worried about the criminal than we are the victim in this country, and it's disgusting. I'm tired of it. I mean, I don't believe in like going outside like the Punisher and putting bullets in people's head because they break the law, but I can understand why he does it 100%. And yes, I'm a comic geek, so don't give me a hard time. God damn it.
So Scott, I want you to answer that question, but also before then, Damon Stroud, I want you to play the video of this guy Mahmoud Khalil, who is an illegal. As you know, Secretary of State Marco Rubio revoked this guy's visa, but for some reason he's able to walk the streets freely. So he's walking the streets freely. Damon, please play the clip of Mahmoud Khalil.
Palestine will live forever. Palestine will live forever. And from the river to the sea. From the river to the sea. Palestine will be free. Palestine will be free. And from the sea to the river. From the sea to the river. Palestine will live forever. 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 Palestine will live forever.
So Palestine will live forever, which is ridiculous. There's no Palestine. But it's crazy. Again, this judge said that what this guy did was okay. He was practicing his freedom of speech, even though he called for the genocide of Jews. He wasn't even a student at Columbia University, but he was the one that started all of these anti-Semitic, pro-Hamas rallies and events at Columbia University. And as you see, he gets out of jail, 3 days later, guess what? He's starting up another chant. He's starting up another rally against Israel. Scott, we'll take it to you.
Well, this goat stupor Fakistinian suffering from a major curb stomp deficiency, and he should be over getting picked out of bulldozers' treads with Rachel Corrie. The whole school issue. I have a son now who's just finished his second year in a school in Maryland. I won't say, but I worry for him there. Thankfully, there's none of this going on at that campus. But I have other friends and family with kids who are now in school encountering this rise in anti-Semitism, all pretty much brought to you by the left, by the squad, and what does Van Hollen do about it? What's a common denominator there? You got him releasing Kilmar, aptly named, and then you have him pulling this anti-Semitic crap at the same time. And yet one of the largest Jewish populations in this country is going to re-elect him over and over again. I don't know why people keep hitting the snooze bar on this stuff. It's you know what I call them. They're ginos, Jews in name only, or capos, people that would try to beat their own just to be last to the gas chamber.
I go even further. I say
or the Judenrat.
Hashtag never my Jew.
Judenrat. Yep.
They're deciding who goes on the trains from the ghettos to the camps next. Yep. I agree with what Seth said. They would never say a word of this to our faces. They might, but they wouldn't get the second word out. Mm-hmm. They would see that we're not sheep, that we fight back. And I think the problem goes further. It's not just a bias and bigotry against Jews, it's against Christians. And what Jews need to realize is, first of all, they say, well, Christians just support Jews in Israel because of revelations and end of days. Personally, I don't care why they do. I just care that they do. But the Christians I know have a grasp of the current events, the history, the vast discrepancies of cultural emphasis between Israel and its neighbors, between Jews and others that we've talked about. But, if not for the Christians of faith in the literal and figurative foxholes to the left and right of me, for 20 years in the Army, and for you in the Navy, I'm sure, there is no front line against radical Islam and against communism and that unholy alliance that they've forged. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, it does. So, David, I want you to bring up the image. So, unfortunately, we had a primary last night in New York. This anti-Semite from Uganda was even born in this country. His father is actually a known murderer, Marxist, socialist, radicalist. Like he is
12-stepper.
Yeah, he's so far from the squad. He's like further, like his actions and his rhetoric is like even worse than what the squad says. This guy, Zohran Mamdani, is the projected mayor of New York City. And I hate to say, like, I talked about this with Elena earlier. I'm not trying to be negative. I hope that, I know Curtis Silva, he did the Guardian Angels. He's very pro-Israel. He's very pro-Jewish. And he did win the Republican primary for the mayoral race last time. But unfortunately, this is New York. We're dealing with New York City now. We're dealing with a lot of corruption in the elections. And I'm very concerned. I'm very concerned that this mofo is going to be, this anti-Semite is going to be the next mayor of New York. And actually, President Trump stated that today in Truth Social. He said, this is the Democrat Party now. This a-hole is now the face of the Democrat Party as well as AOC and Jasmine Crockett. That's why it's very important. Primaries are very important. We need to primary out AOC. We need to primary out Jasmine Crockett and the rest of the squad. But Elena, what say you about this radical Islamist that could potentially be the New York City mayor? What is the future of New York City for the Jewish people, for the Christian people? What is the future of New York?
Okay.
If this guy becomes a mayor.
I am not. I acknowledge that he's the projected winner for the future for November. I am not willing to give up hope on my city yet. I was born and raised in Brooklyn. I'm not giving up yet. There are two other candidates. We've got Eric Adams, who I would like to just see him go take the ferry and go away and never come back, because he has overseen 4 years of destruction following, the dumpster fire that was Bill de Blasio. So now, he's changing his tune because, he got to get out of jail free card. So he's playing nice, but I don't believe him. I don't trust him. I want him gone. Sliwa probably doesn't have a chance, especially if all three of them end up running, because we've got the Democrat, the Independent, and the Republican. One of them needs to drop out. People are pushing Sliwa to drop out. I'm like, why do you want to keep Eric Adams? What are you thinking? So I'm twisted about it, because this people are voting for Mamdani largely because of anti-Semitism, and I'm seeing that, and I'm not. They hate Jews so much that they're not even looking at the fact that this guy's going to set the city on fire. He is pro legal prostitution, pro open injection sites, anti-police, wants to defund the cops. I mean, he wants to open up government-run grocery stores. He's a literal socialist psychopath, and their hatred for Jews burns so bright that they cannot see how destructive this is going to be to their own lives. I cannot wrap my head around this at all.
My question to you, Seth, is how many liberal Jews do you think voted for this anti-Semite in the primary? And how many liberal Jews in New York are going to vote for this anti-Semite in the general?
All of them. Seriously, all of them.
So,
I don't know if they're suffering from guilt for something, or they feel they have to, like, there's something they have to do to prove something, but they're digging their own grave, and I don't feel sorry for them. I can't. I mean, the facts are right in front of them. They know what this man is, what he's about, what he thinks, and what he says. And these morons are tripping over each other to go vote for him. So you know what? You get what you fucking deserve. I can't feel sorry for him. If New York turns into a shithole, you voted for it.
Yeah.
Get a spoon and start eating it. I don't want to hear crying and whining. Well, he's a real bad guy. Hey, you voted for him. You were told. You knew. You knew exactly what he was about, and your dumb ass still voted for him. I don't feel sorry for you, and if I could heap on the misery, I would do it to them.
Well, I just feel as a Jewish person, I can't even step into New York City. And as a professional opera singer, the Metropolitan Opera House is the hub for opera singers. And people know that I'm Jewish. I'm loud and proud about it. But I'm very scared to go into New York City, and I shouldn't. I really shouldn't.
Don't be scared. Just don't go there because it's New York City.
Or I go there, do a show, and get the hell out and make sure I have masks.
I wouldn't even do that. I'd be like, you know what? Your city's a dump. It's run by a communist, and you all are killing yourselves over there. I want nothing to do with it. Don't ask me to come out there. I'm not doing nothing for you. I wouldn't pee in your mouth if your teeth were on fire.
That's a good quote. I wouldn't pee in your mouth if your teeth were on fire. It's a great quote unquote.
Seriously, I wouldn't do nothing for them.
So, Scott, my question to you is, President Trump wrote this beautiful thing on True Social about Bibi Netanyahu, calling him a great warrior, saying, look what we just did, saying that he will make sure that, America saves, Bibi Netanyahu, and calling for the cancellation or the pardon of him, that he shouldn't be going through trial. This is President Trump. He's Christian. He has a Jewish son-in-law, Jewish daughter now, Jewish grandchildren, and he's more of a friend to Israel and the Jewish people than the Jewish people. What say you about that?
No, that's the difference between Trump and a liberal Jew. Is that Trump's grandchildren are Jewish. Bibi is a hero, as was his brother. I mean, my brother's named after his brother Jonathan, and he's always put the future of Israel's greatest treasure first, which is its children. I have no doubt he will stand behind them. Nothing's going to happen with Bibi over there. But I think concerning the New York election, that you're going to see a second great diaspora of New York Jews that will have enough backbone or enough wake up call to move to Florida, which is where we all go to die anyway. But I think also there's a history of dropping rodents in New York, so maybe they'll get rid of this Zohar guy like De Blasio is the groundhog slayer. I don't know who's better to give up the running here. Sliwa, I like him. I met him before, or Adams, but I think one of them will have a better chance running against him. Who knows? I mean, you look at the numbers, the sheer greater percentages of voters in New Jersey and New York who voted for Trump this last time. And then, as in the past, I mean, you didn't get anything even close to that since Reagan versus Mondale.
That's correct.
But I weep for the city the same way the rest of the panelists do. I grew up right over the bridge in Bergen County, the 6th borough of New York. My senior prom was at the top of the World Trade Center. My parents are Dad's from Brooklyn and my mom's from Manhattan. She taught her whole career there. And that's what drove me to join, after 9/11. But I see a greater destruction to the city now than the Twin Towers coming down. The whole thing is going to come down.
I'm glad that you brought that point. I'll get to Elena. So 24 years, from 9/11, now they're going to get this radical Islamist mayor. Like I said, I hope and pray to God that we don't get him. And then to Scott's point, a lot of people from New York are going to probably move down to Florida if this guy gets elected. What say you about that? Because you and I are both Floridians. What do you think about a massive exodus of New York people coming down to Florida again?
Well, we've already had one. We've already had, we've got this big Massachusetts, I moved here from Massachusetts. I had to get out of there because Boston is, just doesn't get the credit it deserves on the national scale for how, liberal and destructive it is there. I don't mind if they come, if they're not the commies. I don't care if they're the conservatives and they're just abandoning ship. But I don't want any of these blue-haired or, even if they're blue hair on the inside, I don't want them coming here. I love that I live in Florida. I feel like I live in America. And when I go to these other places, I feel like I'm in a third world freak country that I don't even recognize. And when I was a teenager growing up in New York, the day I got my driver's license, I drove around. I think I hit every street in every borough. I was all over that place. I knew that city, bad neighborhoods, good neighborhoods, backwards and forwards. I loved it all. And I want nothing to do with it now because of what they've done to it. So anyone that's doing that and thinks this is okay, when they start to suffer, unlike Seth, I do feel sorry for them. And I do want to save them. I want to rescue everyone in my country from this progressive bullshit that we've been dealing with for years. Excuse my French.
No, we're cursing on this show. This is
I know,
open.
But I really don't curse on the internet, but I really have had it.
Oh, Seth is rubbing off on all of us, and the president's rubbing off on all of us too.
Yeah, I gotta write that in. But no, I really don't. But I draw the line at coming here and raining on my parade. You're not doing that. And I want you want to move next door to me and hang one of those freak flags? No, thank you.
I just want to specify what I meant about not wanting to help them. If you are doing it to yourself, knowing what's going to happen, no, I'm not going to help you. When you get what you want, I'm not going to help you. I'm going to ridicule you and I'm going to laugh at you. But if you're trying to fight it, then yes, I feel sorry for you and I'll help you. But the vast majority of that city are lining up to eat a spoonful of shit, and they know it. So
this is what bothers me is that these people were educated on who this mofo is, his family background, and they still freaking voted for him anyway.
Exactly.
That's what makes me ill. And again, it's Jewish people like Scott, like Seth and others that we work with. Like, it gives us a bad name because people look at us like, how could Jewish people vote for this?
How is that any different though than them knowing what we knew about Kamala and Joe and Tim and Tampon Tim Awaltz? I mean, we knew all that stuff too, and people still voted that way
because they didn't know. They don't look at that again. You just made the best analogy because it was another case of being blinded by hatred. Those people were so TDS'd out that they couldn't see straight, and they didn't care about anything but anything but Donald Trump. And it's it.
That's
and this is what's happening in New York. I don't really think they realize that they're going to be tripping over hookers and stepping on needles everywhere they go. But as long as we stick it to the Jews, I don't care what happens. That's what's happening. That's the common denominator between those two situations. It was perfect.
It just looks so bad because I say to the Jewish people in New York, you have an opportunity now to not have this progressive mofo as your mayor. And I call to the Jewish people to do the right thing this time. This time, please God, do not vote for the socialist mayor in your city, or you're going to have to move out.
The problem is that the bar has been set by Jews within Congress. Schumer, Schiff, Nadler, Raskin.
Nadler, yeah.
And the way that that's come about is that Nancy Pelosi is a very clever puppeteer. She has intentionally put prominent Jews in Congress as the face of impeachment to draw ire from the anti-Semitic folks on the right, and thereby try to disguise and shroud the fact that the real, if you want to talk about systemic or institutionalized anti-Semitism, it's on the left. And she does that to try to deflect it. But she's, you get the people on the woke right saying, oh, look, here are the guys that are against Trump, and they're all prominent Jews. I mean, she's not dumb. She's done that perfectly. And that's been her strategy all along.
I'm not hip to the new lingo. What does mofo mean?
Really?
No. I'll call you later.
I'm trying to be polite. I don't say the F word on air. I will say bullshit sometimes, but I'm trying to be political. I don't want to say politically correct. I'm trying to be classy.
I've been surprisingly the best behaved thus far.
Yeah, I'm trying. But we have to end this segment, and we have to go into our commercial, and then we will be right back with our panel after the break.
Okay, mofo.
Welcome to America's Pulse Network. This is APN's very own White House correspondent, Alexandra Levine.
This is so amazing and miraculous. We've never had a president in the history of our nation doing this. And we hope to God that he continues doing this forever and ever. Thank you. God bless you, everybody. And God bless President Trump.
And God bless you.
Hello, everyone. This is Alexandra Levine with the America's Pulse Network. I am the White House correspondent right here in the heart of D.C. as President Trump is celebrating 250 years of America and the military.
Subscribe and follow America's Pulse Network on the above social medias.
So, hey, everybody, it's Alexandra Levine back with the Pulse. Just want to say that is our new APN White House correspondent promo. It was such a beautiful day for me to be there on June 14th for not only President Trump's birthday, but to celebrate 250 years of the military. And we thank the two men on our show for their service. Thank you guys so much. Thank you, Seth. Thank you, Scott.
There's other branches other than the Navy?
Huh?
There's other branches besides the Navy?
Yeah, there was other branches there too.
Oh.
They had it was like a plethora. Like the whole parade went through like every branch alive.
So it's really like the men's department and the boys department. I got it.
Exactly. And then we got to see President Trump swear in, new guys going into the military. It was a really beautiful sight. It was really nice.
That's cool.
But anyway, so segment 3 talks about Operation Dragonfly. Let's bring up that image, Damon Sherrod. So Operation Dragonfly, so my friend Libs of TikTok just said massive child predator sting. Quote, Operation Dragonfly in Florida led to the arrest of 8 suspects on charges including human trafficking, child endangerment, and drug possession. 60 missing kids were rescued. I'm going to pivot to Elena on this because we're both Floridians here, but this is her life's work. She knows a lot about this. What is your comments on this, Elena? What do you think about this sting operation?
Dan Bongino just posted a few days ago about another couple hundred kids that were saved from sex trafficking. This is happening more and more. Why hasn't this been happening over the past several years?
Mm-hmm. I agree.
There was nothing being done, it seems, to try to rescue children. This is a big relief. But what my question now is what now? What happens to these children? Where are they going? I don't trust government services. I don't trust CPS. Who's going to take them over? Because CPS puts them in with therapists who say, "Oh, you're stressed out. Well, that's because you're born in the wrong body." And I'm not trying to be funny. Like, that is what these people are doing to children who are traumatized, anxious, depressed. I'm very concerned about where these children are going to land. There's a place, oh God, I'm forgetting that, Piece of Heaven, it's called. It's still, they're raising money and trying to make it happen. There's an abandoned women's prison in California, in Northern California. And there's a church out there that's trying to purchase it to create a home on this entire compound for children who are rescued from sex trafficking and create something beautiful for them, a place where they can be raised, as Christians. It's a Christian place. But safety, beauty, beautiful landscaping. They want to make everything wonderful. Like, in the absence of something like that, what are we doing with these kids? It's killing me.
Well, Scott, remember, I think under the Biden-Kamala administration, didn't they misplace how many, like 30,000 kids or something like that? They misplaced the kids. And I think when Trump got back in with Thomas Homeland, the borders are, all of a sudden the kids are found. They found them. So
Misplaced hundreds of thousands of kids.
hundreds of thousands. Yeah,
We're
I couldn't
only
remember
concerned
30,000
about the
or
kids.
300,000. It was a lot. It was a big number.
They're only a bit concerned about the kids of illegals that are getting deported.
Exactly.
Never mind that there are criminals in the country every day who are going to jail and leaving their kids. And I'm not saying that's the wrong thing if they're supposed to be incarcerated, but if they can't relink up these kids, a single one of these trafficked kids across our border, they're certainly not going to care about these, and they'll just look at it as some deflection, like they did with putting kids in cages, which was an Obama era thing to do that Trump was rectifying. But you want to keep families together, deport everybody. I mean, but you're not going to put kids in jail with their parents, and you're not going to do certain. And if they're not even their parents to begin with, and vetting the fact that these are military aged people who are not even the proper age to be the parents of these kids anyway. They don't care about the kids. They don't remember. Yes, those 3 governors in that circus act last week in front of Congress, they didn't know probably any of the names that were brought up of children or mothers that were raped or slain by savages from shitholes. There's my token curse for the night. But but God forbid you say that term, because then they take away your argument because you've cursed, or because you've called a place that Obama called it before, or you've brought up a policy that Trump is doing with Abrego Garcia that Clinton put in place 30 years ago for the expedited removal, and things that Clinton and others are on the record as saying the exact same thing. But when the shoe's on, the Democrats don't, more so than the Republicans. Of course, it can go both ways, but it really is skewed. Democrats, and it's the whole issue with the 60 years in the blue cities or more, they are not interested in solving a problem, because when the problem goes away, they thereby lose, their source of power through the struggle or perceived struggle, which was by no coincidence in Arabic called jihad. They want that perceived jihad in the cities to continue to amass their power and blame the people who weren't even in power. They're not interested in a solution.
Now, Seth, let me pivot to you, because you're in Maryland, and there has been confirmed sources that there's huge child trafficking and sex trafficking rings in your state. And as you know, your state is considered a sanctuary state. You have sanctuary city, Baltimore City, and sanctuary counties. Talk to us about that. And you're very good friends with Sheriff Chuck Jenkins, who's actually running for re-election. Tell us about what your county and city have done to stop this human trafficking, sex trafficking happening in Frederick County, Frederick City. But also, why does your state still have human trafficking rings and child trafficking rings? Don't you think Governor Westmore would want to do something about it, or Attorney General Anthony Brown?
I think we have that problem in Maryland because we don't have a death penalty.
Yeah.
And let me be very blunt. I am a huge advocate for children. I'm a father. I've coached Little League football. I love kids. I can't be around. A good day is being around kids as opposed to winning lottery for me. I would rather spend my time with children just to be around them, because they make you feel alive. Anybody, any fucking body that would harm or hurt a child or take away their innocence, there is no death painful enough for them that I can think of. And it can't be quick enough. We need to stop coddling criminals in this country. We need to stop making them feel like they have a problem and their crime is a result of their problem. We need to start holding these people accountable. We need to start hurting these people. And then we need to make it public so the rest of the world in this country knows if you harm a child, we're going to skin you alive in town square, douse you in salt, and then let you wither and die in the middle of the street. We're not going to do a thing for you. You're a vile human being, and you deserve nothing more than that. Sheriff Jenkins is doing what he can to do in this county to keep that from happening, but he's fighting liberals who have no problem with that. Liberals who don't care if children are sexually assaulted or abused or neglected. They don't care because they're evil people. The state doesn't care because we're run by evil people. Nobody cares unless it affects them, for the most part. For the most part. I'm speaking in generalities.
Mhm.
Unless it's their child, they don't care. And that's half the problem. I can't be strong enough when I say pedophiles and people who do anything harmful to children need to be shot in the head. It's disgusting. I can't believe that you have to discuss this and tell people that it's wrong to do something like that to a child, that you have to explain to people that that's wrong.
Well,
I don't advocate violence.
Yeah.
when you were talking about
Yeah.
initially in the beginning of the segment, you're talking about child molestation and drugs. I thought you were talking about the Biden White House. But, don't spit out your beer. But when it no joke, when it comes from the top like that, when that's the precedent that's set and nothing's done, and it filters all the way down to the state and the county and municipal level, you're right, Seth. Nobody cares, and it's and when you're sniffing hair and showering with your daughter, you set the bar.
Well, somebody made the point. Actually, it was our friend Tim Fazenmaker. He actually put on Facebook and said, "I'd rather have a president that says the F-bomb than a quote president or a person that gets into a shower, with his daughter when she's young." I mean, it's disgusting. It's so nasty. Elena, go ahead, take it.
Yeah, I don't want to take any credit away from Biden, but this sexualization of children has been going on. It started in the Truman administration. Okay. Mm-hmm. So we are now at a point in this country where the people who Seth says they don't care, it's not that they don't care. It's that they're in it. They're in on it. There are books for infants and preschoolers and everything from that age up until high school, teaching children about sex and sexuality. Planned Parenthood has materials out. How do I talk to my preschooler about sex and sexuality?
Rumors talking about banning books, hiding behind the excuse of book banning. They're groomers.
Of course.
That's what I'm saying. So you have 50 million American public school children being groomed for sexual encounters in school. Right. And they're being taught that it's normal. So it makes it so much easier for these predators the kids are pre-groomed before a predator has to make a move. The kid, a freaky coach, cousin, whatever, neighbor. Most sex trafficked children sleep in their own beds at night. We think of them as being picked up in vans and taken away or being trafficked like the ones we're talking about. Most of them sleep in their own beds. They play on their own little league team. They go to their own school, and they're being passed around their neighborhood by some creep in their family. So when you go to school and they're showing you all this sex stuff, you're confused and you think, well, it must not be so bad because this is what they're showing me and it must be normal. It's disgusting. So you want to put bullets in heads. We're going to need a lot of bullets.
Well, guys, I want to show this video because this is towards the end of our segment. Damon Schraub, please play this video of a weatherman.
Everybody, I am Chartreuse Money, and today, as current temperatures right here, Saturday, it's 2:40 p.m., honey. It is 80 degrees here in Portland right now, honey, and we are feeling the effects. The sun is out. All it took was a pride parade to bring the sunshine out today, but honey.
So this was a drag queen, which is a man, a weatherman in Maine, talking about pride parade and everything. I'm going to pivot to you, Elena, on this because I want you to, because this kind of goes to your previous point that you were making. There's children that are watching this. There's there's people of all different ages watching. This is a weather person. This is a man dressed as a woman in drag to the nation, giving us the weather. I mean, this is disgusting. What say you about this?
First of all, he looks like he's in an Ice Capades costume. Okay.
It's crazy.
Ridiculous. Yes, everything with the honey and this and that and this over accentuated. Drag is a sexualized performance art. It belongs on the stage for adults in a dark theater at night. Nothing wrong with that. Go have at it. The fact that they put it in front of kids and the fact that they're putting it in front of little grandmas watching that show just to figure out what the weather's looking like today is atrocious. Everything has to have sex and sexuality and gender confusion. And some little kid is thinking that that's normal. If you show a child something enough, they're going to think it's normal, no matter how damaging it is. If a kid grows up in a house where mommy and daddy get drunk and punch each other in the face every night, they're going to think that's normal. And then they're going to eventually go to somebody else's house where it's like the Cleavers, and they're going to be like, they're going to be so confused. But if that's all they see, they're going to think it's okay. And we're destroying their minds, and we're destroying what God created by trying to convince people that the bastardization of the natural order is right. I'm sick of it. I'm mad. I'm getting mad. You're making me mad tonight.
No, sorry. I know we'll put some humor in the next segment. But Scott, pivot to you. So like you said, you have children. Your children are watching this. What if you had a child that said, "Oh, Dad, that's a really nice like weather person. Like maybe that's what I want to be." Like, what would your response be to that?
You're like, who let Liz Cheney do the weather? I mean, strong chance of golden showers tonight, I guess. I don't know. Like, oh, disgusting. I didn't want to know. You asked me earlier if I saw that segment. I said, do I want to? I really am not going to get that 30 seconds back. I don't know what to say. I don't know what to say to an adult about that. I don't think that Caitlyn Jenner knows what to say to Caitlyn Jenner's credit, as a conservative and keeping men out of women's sports, biological men. I don't think Caitlyn knows what to say about that.
It's so gross. Yeah, it sounds like that. No, I think you said
all my jokes, and now I'm moving on. Seth,
it's okay. Yeah, Seth, pivot to you.
Let the extras fly, man. Because
Seth, let it rip. Now, Seth, I'm going to ask you. You have a son, Ryan. What if Ryan saw that? Like, first of all, what would your son's reaction be? But what would your reaction be to, God forbid, Ryan, says, "Oh, Dad, I think I want to be, a drag queen weatherman after seeing that."
If my son said that, number one, I love my son. So the first thing I would think is he needs help. I need to find somebody that deals with this because I'm not equipped to. Right. Let me find a psychiatrist or a therapist and let him talk to him.
Don't do that.
Well, I mean, if he talks to me, it's going to be you son. So it might be better to get with the therapist or somebody, or at least a priest or somebody that can talk to him about that on a better level than I could. And at the end of the day, he's my son. I'm going to love him. I'm not going to disown him or treat him any differently. I'd be concerned for him, of course, but I would get him help. And this all goes back to anybody that would harm a child deserves to die. And if that gets me banned on Facebook or on Restream, that's fine. If you harm a child, directly or indirectly, you deserve to die. That's all there is to it. You want to dress like a drag queen and go to a nightclub that does drag? That's fine because it's all adults. I have no problem with that. I'll never be there, but that's your right. That's your right. You're an adult. Adults can do that, and adults can watch it. That is fine. Awesome. If you're
you raise conservative kids, right, Seth? I mean,
yeah.
I have two stepdaughters and a son, and they're all minority, Latino and Jewish, and they're conservative. I mean. Yeah. I mean, thankfully.
I mean, my daughter was in the Navy. She lives in California now with my grandchildren. My son's 15. But if adults want to do that, that's fine. I'm not going to stop that. Adults can do what they want to do as long as they're not hurting anybody else. You want to watch a man dress up like a woman and talk to you, that's fine. That's fine. The second you feel the need for children to see that is when I want to cave your head in with a baseball bat. That I cannot be any more polite than that. You have no business doing that in front of children or for children. We have got to, again, we have to stop coddling these people. We need to stop trying to communicate with them or try to reach them. It's come to a point now where if you come to my child like this, I'm going to hurt you. I'm going to hurt you bad. And if I see you doing this to another child, whether it's my child or not, I'm going to hurt you bad. Mm-hmm. And I'm going to hurt you so bad, you'll never want to do it again. And if I burn in hell for that, you know what? I'll do it with a smile on my face because I'm not going to let people harm children. I'm not going to turn my back on it. I'm not going to accept it as, hey, it's just the way things are now. You just have to learn to accept it. Well, that's a school teacher. I don't care who you are. Be advised, if you do this to my child or a child in my presence, I'm going to fucking hurt you bad and repeatedly until I'm pulled off of you. I'll go to jail with a smile on my face. And when I get out, I'm going to find you and hurt you fucking bad again because I know you did it while I was in jail. We got to
right in the tuck.
So I want to add just a little bit of humor, and then we'll go to the last segment. So my friend Donald Willinger, thank him so much for watching. He says, Seth, when asked, I always claim to be a lesbian trapped in a man's body. So far, I have never been questioned. LOL.
That's what you identify as. Good.
But yeah, so I mean, all of you guys have
Nice.
some great points, and this is a hard subject because the fact that we are dealing with this now in our country, and we're dealing with the CRT and the gender identity in some liberal states that want to push this damn curriculum, it really is affecting our youth. And unfortunately, our children are seeing this on TikTok, they're seeing this on social media. And it's really sad. And we talked about this a couple of weeks ago, why is like every celebrity child like a trans? Like that's like the new norm now. It's like if you're a celebrity's child, you have to be trans. It's like that's the new norm. That's
like a diamond tennis bracelet. It's
ridiculous.
That's all it is. It's just to look like, hey, I'm woke.
Exactly. Yeah. So segment 4, going into, you got Seth, you'll love this a lot because this is talking about stupid people in Congress. So Seth, you've talked about this a lot. You talked about this last week on your show. So now we have the stupid Congresswoman AOC, who gets fatter by the moment. I don't know if she's pregnant. I don't know if she's just eating. I don't know what the hell. She's like a whale now. Maybe she's non-binary now. Who the hell knows? But she's calling for President Trump's impeachment, based on what he did in Iran, or what he did with Iran, in conjunction with working with Israel. And then you have Jasmine Crockett, who curses like a sailor, and she's calling for the impeachment of Donald Trump.
Hey.
Well, no, I'm saying she's not. It's not good.
I don't mind when sailors do it.
Sailors can do it, but not her. So anyway, and President Trump, he made a very important truth on his True Social today. He talked about the face of the Democrat Party. He said, now we have AOC, maybe, she'll be president, or not maybe, but if she keeps being in Congress, because we don't have term limits in Congress, as you know, which is ridiculous. So we have like AOC as the president, Jasmine Crockett as the vice president, we got Bernie Sanders in there somewhere. We got all these squad members, all these socialists that are basically the heads of the Democrat Party, which is disgusting because they are a minority. They're a minority trying to be a majority. And that's why term limits are so important. I feel like President Trump in that truth was hinting that we need term limits to remove these morons, or we need to primary them out. APAC, whoever we got to use to primary these mofos out. I'm not going to say that word. Mofos out, because the more that they're in there, the more havoc that they're causing. And unfortunately, you have, the Gen Zers that are watching them, that are listening to them, that are giving them the credence. It's really disgusting. So I pivot this to Scott here. What do you think about the AOCs of the world, the Rashid Tlaibs of the world? Why are they calling for Trump's impeachment? Why do they think that why do they even think that Trump is going to be impeached? And why does the Democrats, why is their whole messaging just to shit on Donald Trump?
They don't know the first thing about the Constitution, first of all. They don't know about the powers. They do the same thing when it comes to illegals. They say, where does it say in the Fifth Amendment about it applies to citizens or not? It apply in the preamble. It lays out who the Constitution applies to and who it doesn't apply to. As far as War Powers Act, we've declared war 5 times in 250 years. And every president, if they want to count the amount of times that Obama and Biden did drone strikes or lobbed a couple of tomahawks at something to do nothing, completely combat ineffective at that, or the conflicts that they started or perpetuated or increased. Look, I'm not against this whole thing about no new wars. This war with Islam has been going on a long time, with radical Islam. And they see people fetching in wine bars and Starbucks who never lifted a finger for these conflicts. They see that as a weakness to exploit the full effect, because it is. I mean, even if you're running on a treadmill to stand still against these wackos, you have to do it, because they say that how do you measure victory? Well, first of all, you have to define it, and then you can measure it. But I measured victory every day that I was in on a daily basis by whether my kids were safe or not, and keeping it over there instead of over here. They've never lifted a finger. They were too young to remember or know the consequences of 9/11. They don't have any civic appreciation for the country they live in. And the whole, I call Jasmine Crockett DEI lash, but they
Love it.
DEI is the soft bigotry of low expectations, and that's where the real bigotry is against highly qualified, brilliant minorities, like say Ben Carson, for example, is like the pinnacle in his field, and the fact that people might question his credentials, academic and whatever, because that's the real crime, because he is the best in that field, and yet because you're dealing with how many places do you have to level the playing field? If you do it at the college level, do you then do it at the professional level, and where lives are at stake, whether it's a vet like me or a doctor or air traffic controller?
Yes.
And it doesn't. The diversity is not our strength, and that's what Pete Hegseth understands. The unity is our strength.
Yeah.
The
And
unity is as Americans and what binds us together. You can have your diversity, but the strength is in, and they're not Americans first. And it's the same thing with the giants. They're ideologue, Democrat, socialists first, and then maybe somewhere down the line near the bottom, if at all, they're Americans or Jewish or this or that. But everything, like you're talking too about, why do all these kids of celebrities become trans or what have you? Because that's the only identity that they have. They haven't forged an identity for themselves in a career, in a talent, in something else, and grounded in merit. And they're look at these pinheads are dealing with trying to go toe to toe with the likes of Marco Rubio or Ted Cruz or Josh Hawley, and they're going to get or us, and they're going to get pounded into the pavement, literally and figuratively, every time, because that's all they've got.
So, Elena, I want to pivot this to you because, how the heck do we get these damn socialists out of Congress? Again, we don't have term limits. The hope is that one day we may have term limits. I don't know. I know President Trump has called for term limits. He's term limited as the president. And it's just the more that these morons continue being in office, they may eventually run for president of the United States. Now we have this idiot from New York. God forbid he becomes the mayor. He's a local level. Then he may go to the state level. Then he may go into the federal level. We have that in the state of Maryland with John Yoshevsky. Started out as a state delegate, Baltimore County executive. Now he's a congressman. And he's a Democrat socialist idiot, and Westmore as well. Westmore wants to run for president of the United States. He's a Democrat socialist. So, Elena, what is your solution to getting rid of these damn socialist Democrats?
I think it's going to take at least a generation. There's no quick solution. Part of the problem is we're indoctrinating children from birth into not understanding civics, as Scott said. They don't understand the country. They're not taught to love the country and appreciate the freedoms that we have here. I have here, this is a book. It's for 1, 2, 3-year-olds. It is called A is for Activist. And everything in here is, anti-capitalist,
bullshit.
I've actually heard of that book.
Raised fists. Z is for Zapatista. This is somebody in a mask. You see the eyes coming through the mask there. I know it's hard to see on the screen. They're feeding children, and this is not some exaggeration. From birth, all through their school, they're feeding children to hate this country. So until we take control of the education system, that's one thing. We have to take control of our proverbial airwaves and what's being put into children's minds, and re-educate parents on how to actually be parents. Get the cell phones out of the schools altogether, so that children's minds can start to operate properly and in a natural state again, instead of just bouncing all over the place. These are things that are going to take tenacity and time and commitment. And the liberal states don't want to do that because they prefer the kids to be crazy and dumb and out of control and emotional, so that they can fall for the trans ideology or the socialist ideology or any identity, as you mentioned also, because it was enough for millennia for people to identify as a member of their family, to identify as a child of God, or whatever religion they were a part of, whatever nationality they were part of. And then their job was just something that they did. I don't identify as a podcaster. You know, it's something it's an occupation. It's a joy, but we just need to turn everything right side up. Everything.
Yep.
So that's the answer. I'm sorry. There's no easy answer on getting these psychos out.
To your point, when you're talking about, or like that's why the left wants to have free preschool and free college, because they want to start the indoctrination as early as possible and continue it on as long as possible.
Yeah,
and it's under the guise of it takes a village instead of it takes a parent.
Yeah.
Well, Seth, I want to pivot this to you, to end just on this point. Politics is local. We always say that. And you and I worked in Frederick County. We got 2 conservatives on the school board, Colt Black and Jamie Brennan. And in Washington County, they have 4 full Republicans working on the school board, and they have a Republican mayor in Hagerstown, and they have 1 Republican on the Hagerstown City Council, our friend Sean Flaherty. And he's 1 out of 4 Democrats, but he's still a Republican. He's still there. He's making buzz. And I talked about this with my friend, Lieutenant Stephen Rogers. I feel that because we have conservatives on the school board, do you believe that it will help to minimize all of this indoctrination that's going on in schools? Do you believe that we should continue to work to get more Republicans on the school board, conservatives on the school board, more conservatives on the local level and on the state level? What say you about that?
Homeschool your kids.
That's an option too. If people can afford that, some people can't afford to do that.
People say that all the time, and my answer is, if you want it, you'll find a way to do it. It's that simple.
Yes.
There's
my sister homeschools her 3 children.
If you want to homeschool your kids, you're going to homeschool. If not, you're going to find excuses why you can't. It's that simple.
Mm-hmm.
I sent my son to a private Catholic school for middle school.
I mean, or you can do that. I mean, just make sure when
you
send
state school or something where they don't indoctrinate, the kids.
Yeah, but when you send your kids to public or private schools, make sure they're not receiving any government money, because if they are, they're getting the same education they would be in a public school, because they're getting federal money. So you got to make sure
the state's trying to usurp the autonomy of the county school boards as well.
Oh yeah, that's why I'm saying the best thing to do is homeschool. That's the only way you will guarantee your kids will be well-rounded, smart individuals when they get into the real world. You send them to public school. Go ahead.
They're coming after that though too, so they're trying to overly legislate that and control what goes on at your kitchen table.
That's true.
I mean, I guess the real answer to all of it is civil war, but we're not allowed to really talk about that.
But I want to make the point that in Loudoun County, Virginia, which is a very liberal county, the parents finally, because of COVID, took a look at what their kids were learning. They were learning about the CRT and the gender identity, and because the parents actually, got, I would say, the cojones, the gumption to go in front of the school board. And it wasn't just one parent. It was like a plethora, a huge group of parents, and they did petitions and everything. And because they stood up and they stood for their kids and realized that what their kids were learning was not right, we have a Republican governor in Virginia, Republican lieutenant governor, Republican attorney general. So a lot of that has to do with the parents. Like you said, Elena, the parents need to be more educated in what is going on in the schools. And also we need to have parents that go into a lot of these liberal counties, these little liberal cities, and can override a lot of the shit that's happening in these schools.
Well, let me ask you a question. What's happening in Virginia with the schools? Nothing's changed. Nothing's changed. You've got governors and politicians that talk a good game and pound their chests and say, I'm going to change things. End of the day, they don't give a shit. They're worried about the next election and getting reelected. They're going to say whatever they got to say to get to that next election. Homeschool is the only way. You can't depend on politicians. You can't. No matter who they are, what side of the aisle they're on, they're slimy and they're worried about the next election. That's it. And if what they need coincides with what you want, great.
Well, I don't think the parents.
Well, in Virginia, they're limited to 1 term as governor. Right. That's a good thing.
1 term, and and honestly, in Virginia, because I was there in Loudoun County, and I heard the concerns of the parents, specifically the parent that his daughter was actually raped by a guy who was dressed up as a girl in the women's bathroom. Yeah. And they, Merrick Garland considered him a domestic terrorist, which was disgusting. I don't think the parents at that point were caring who the leadership was. It just so happened it was during a gubernatorial election. So they knew with Ralph Northam leaving, they didn't want Terry McAuliffe in there because he's a freaking Hillary Clinton lover and socialist himself. So anybody was better than a Terry McAuliffe coming in or another Democrat coming in. So it just so happened that Glenn Youngkin happened to be at the right place at the right time. dime by running at that point. But I think the parents were just concerned if we continue with that socialist agenda that they're pushing to their kids. They wanted, they wanted, what's the word? Not repercussion. They wanted, I can't think of the word. I'm blanking on it. But they wanted justice. There we go. They wanted justice for their child. They wanted justice to get rid of a lot of the crap that has been going on in Loudoun County schools and Virginia schools nationwide. I can tell you that since Glenn Youngkin has been the governor, that they have come down a lot with the CRT and the gender identity, because I've been working wholeheartedly with the governorship to implement full Holocaust and Israel education in the entire state of Virginia. And Governor Youngkin, he did recognize the definition of the word anti-Semitism as it is accredited to the International Holocaust Resolution Association. So he has done stuff in regards to that. Could he do more? Should he do more? If Winsome Sears wins, can she do more? Should she do more? Of course. I agree with you, Seth. It is not completely gone. I agree with you. People can homeschool their kids. They can. But little by little, whoever's in power, whether Republican, Democrat, or whatever, independent, little by little, they do, some of them do make a dent, and they do make a break in it. And I'm actually working in your county right now, Seth, to make sure that it is full Holocaust education in the entire state of Maryland. I did it in Pennsylvania, and I have to go county by county. County by county, I have to go. City by city, I have to go in order for this to be done. And I have to work with Democrats on this too, unfortunately, because as you know, Maryland has a Democrat delegation. So,
all I'm saying is,
go ahead.
Saying one politician's better than another, saying this pile of dog shit doesn't smell as bad as that one.
Right.
Stop looking to politicians for help. Look to your neighbor. Look to your family. Look to your priest. Look to your rabbi. Look to people in your community. That's where change starts. It doesn't start in D.C., doesn't start in Annapolis, doesn't start at City Hall. It starts in your communities. It starts with your people. It starts with your neighborhoods. That's where change starts. We have forgotten that as a nation. We got to stop looking at politicians as rock stars. They are our employees. At the end of the day, they're no more important than a McDonald's employee. We need to start treating them as expendable as they are and let them know you are expendable.
I agree.
You serve at my pleasure. And if I don't like you, you're gone. We need to start putting the power back into us, into communities, into churches, into things like that, because that's where everything starts. It ends in D.C., and it ends in Annapolis, it ends at Town Hall, but it starts in your house, it starts in your neighborhood, it starts in your church. And you got to carry it from there out, not from them back. We need to stop treating these people like they're going to help, like they're our saviors. They're not. They're there to get to the next election and get reelected so they can retire with full pay, full health care off our tit for the rest of their lives. I'm sick of politicians. I'm sick of.
No, I agree. And I just want to acknowledge all the people that have been commenting tonight on YouTube, on Rumble, on X. Thank you guys so much for your comments. It's well appreciated. And my friend Donald Willinger, this was a good, funny point that he said, the worst politician in the world is Donald Trump. He's the only president in my lifetime who doesn't take his salary, bribes, etc. He does what he says he will do. He's a great president. And sure, President Trump doesn't take a dime. President Trump actually, he paid out of his own dime for 2 American flags in the front of the White House lawn. It was so beautiful to see. And of course, the fake news media, they don't know how to report on it because
he's not a politician.
Taxpayer dollars to put up the flags. Why should taxpayer dollars pay for that? I love the fact that President Trump, he took it out of his own pocket because he knew it had to be done. And I believe that he will pay for the ballroom that he wants to put together at the White House because it needs to be done. He wants to, again, make America great again, make the White House great again, and so forth. Right before we finish, because I know we were very over tonight, but this has been a great discussion. Just like a minute answer from each one of you guys. When are we going to get the passing of the one big beautiful bill? Is it going to happen before 4th of July? Or are we going to have a bunch of damn grandstanders in the Senate and the Congress that are going to prevent President Trump from moving forward with the agenda for the American people? I pivot to you, Elena, first.
I don't have a crystal ball. I have no idea. What these people are just full of surprises and jackass moves that just keep me guessing. Gotta say, don't know. No prediction.
Yeah. Scott, what do you think? Do you think we're going to get this passed before 4th of July like the president wants?
If anyone can do it, it's President Trump, just like he's promised on other things and in terms of negotiations as well. We haven't had a clean bill. Congress hasn't done its job passing a clean bill. And yeah, there's going to be some earmarks in pork, but both sides do this. They put things that are morally repugnant to the other side. So like, say, for the example, the Democrats can say, well, the Republicans don't like the military because they didn't vote on this bill. Bullshit. Like there was something about Planned Parenthood in there. So they're not going to vote for it. And then they're not going to, right? But I don't know. We haven't had a clean budget since Obama's first term.
It's a good point.
We'll see.
Seth, what say you? Do you think we're going to have more of the Thomas Masseys of the Congress that are just going to grandstand and make sure that this doesn't get passed?
I don't know. But first, to your friend Donald, President Trump's not a politician. He's exempt from what I was talking about. He's not a politician. That's why he does what he does, says he's going to do. As far as this bill, like Elena said, I don't know. These jackasses change their mind every other day. They're for him, then they're against him, then they love the bill, then they hate the bill. There's no telling what they're going to do. I mean, the only way you can figure it out is what can they gain from it. And if they can gain something from it, they'll support it. If they're going to lose something from it, they're not going to support it. That's the only way you can figure out who's going to support it or not. But before the 4th of July, you know what? I could tell you if my grandfather had tits, he'd have been my grandmother. So I don't know.
Well, the thing is,
I say Trump will get it done. I think Trump will get it done.
I agree with you because, again, Congress goes into their summer session, and then they don't come back until September. And again, the Trump tax cuts, they literally end December of this year. So if we don't get this bill passed before December of this year, guess what? No Trump tax cuts. This bill is an extension of his tax cuts, but it's also to help with the people. Also, he's putting in a bunch of money to produce more ICE agents, Border Patrol, so that we are safe, so that America is safe. And also, he's helping our farmers. He's helping the small business owners here. He's helping the middleman here. He's helping, the coal miners, the backbone of our nation, the construction workers. That's why this bill is so important. That's why I say to Congress, stop with the bullshit. Like Seth said, they work for us. We don't work for them. I mean, it's the truth. They work for us. Listen to your constituents. Damn, if they do not listen, please, constituents, vote these mofos out. President Trump has called for the removal of Thomas Massey because it doesn't matter what is put forward. He just says no, because he is so anti-Trump. He's not America first at all. I agree with President Trump on that. Get the damn squad leaders out of here. Get these damn people that just want to be grandstanding. And like I said in my monologue, a lot of them are bought and paid off by special interests and lobbyists. They control the power of the purse in D.C. That's why I've called for the removal of special interests and lobbyists from D.C. because they are detriments. They're detriments to our country. They're controlling how Congress is going. They're actually controlling what gets put into these bills. Lobbyists actually help write a lot of these bills, and lobbyists are actually responsible for the majority of the pork that is put into these bills. And that is absolute truth. That is not
kosher bills with no pork in them.
I wish the bills were more kosher. The bills need to be kosher.
Yes.
And Elena, you said you were Jewish and Italian, but it's two cultures based on food and guilt, so we're practically paisan, right?
Yeah. I mean, I'm not Jewish, but I was raised Jewish and
You said
Italian.
So.
Yeah. No, we're the same. Yes, you're absolutely
I don't know.
right.
I think there's a little Jew in her, everybody. I think she's getting more Jewish every week.
I dig on the swine, so I don't know about that. I can eat some bacon. You lose me a little bit there when we say no pork. I don't know.
I don't know, Seth. The rabbi's watching.
Yeah, we all got to have a vice. Pork is my vice, I guess.
Anyway, guys, it's been a great hour and a half. I want each and every one of you just to tell our viewers how we can find you, your shows. Seth, let's start with you.
I'm on here on Wednesday at 8, and if I don't have a stroke, I'll be on Sunday at 7 till 8:30. And then if I don't have a stroke, I'll be back here next Wednesday at 8, and then we'll repeat the cycle.
And how can we follow you, Seth? How can our viewers follow you?
On Conservative Seth on X, the Conservative Corner on Facebook. And I'm not that technologically savvy, so that's it. I'm only on 2 places. That's pretty much it.
That's awesome. Scott, how can we follow you?
I have my political page from when I ran for office unsuccessfully, but it's called Lieutenant Colonel Scott Willens Against Anti-Semitism. You can also find me at Neighborhood Veterinary Associates at my animal hospital and my 80s rock band Weird Science in Maryland.
That's awesome. And just as I said before, like, if you are an anti-Semite on Facebook, Scott Willens will call you out.
You're done.
You're done. Castration.
Done.
And Elena, how can our viewers follow you?
You can find me on all the regular socials, including Rumble, at I'm at the Based Mother.
That's awesome. And of course, don't forget, we have our other host. Unfortunately, he's on vacation. Darn him, Damon Galdo. He does the Jersey Shore every Mondays and Fridays from 8 to 9 p.m. He's also on the Pulse with us normally when he's not on vacation. But we're looking forward to having him back. Thanks, Damon, for commenting while you were on vacation. So thank you so much. And of course, you can follow me, Alexandra Levine, live every Tuesday and Thursday night from 8 to 9 p.m. And of course, I'm always on the Pulse from 8 to 9 p.m. here on Wednesday. And don't forget to follow at America's Pulse Network on X, at America's Pulse Network on Rumble, at America's Pulse Network on True Social, and at America's Pulse Network on YouTube. You can also follow me, Alexandra Levine. I'm very accessible on Facebook, at Alexandra LEVI20 on X, at ARLevine85 on Rumble, at ARLevine85 on Instagram, at ARLevine85 on True Social, at Levine Consulting on YouTube. Thank you guys so much. This has been a great hour and a half. Remember, the Pulse of America is for God, for country, and don't forget to watch us every time. And don't forget, the Pulse just keeps going every time we do this show. Thank you guys so much. We appreciate it.
Am Yisrael Chai.
Am Yisrael Chai.
America's Pulse Network. The mainstream media is bought and paid for. The truth is twisted to fit their agenda. But America is waking up because podcasts are the future for trusted media. Welcome to the America's Pulse Network. It is a network built by patriots that upholds the Constitution. The America's Pulse Network stands for God, truth, and the America First movement. There is no corporate propaganda, no government spin, just real news, real talk, and real voices fighting for faith, freedom, and the future of this great nation with common sense. Here are some of America's Pulse Network podcasts. Alexandra Levine Live, hosted by Alexandra Levine. Jersey Shore Podcast, hosted by Damon Galdo. The Conservative Corner, hosted by Seth Eisenberg. APN's The Pulse, hosted by Alexandra, Damon, and Seth. So tune into America's Pulse Network on the following social media platforms: X/Twitter, Rumble, Truth Social, Facebook, and YouTube. Join the revolution. Because the Pulse of America beats for God and country. America's Pulse Network is for faith, family, freedom, and truth. Alexandra Levine Live, hosted by Alexandra Levine. Jersey Shore Podcast, hosted by Damon Galdo. The Conservative Corner, hosted by Seth Eisenberg. Because the Pulse of America beats for God and country. America's Pulse Network is for faith, family, freedom, and truth.